Above, start cleaning those tires up. On green this time. Remember they fan out down there, so protect that bottom. Sunday drive. All right, boss man. Hey, starts off. Be ready. Bud, be ready. Gas that bitch up. Ready. Green flag. Green.
Welcome, everybody, to the Inside Pass on WSIC. I see we have graphics now, so they have our names up there.
Isn't that awesome?
That is pretty cool.
It's amazing.
So that's Tom Baker, and I'm Randy Miller. In case you don't, you can't put the two and two together, but the graphics match the TV screen.
I'm the bald guy.
Yes, he's the older balder one, and I'm the skinnier younger one, or something like that. Welcome to the show, everybody. We have a great show on tap for you today. We're going to talk about Phoenix as the NASCAR's West Coast swing has officially come to an end, at least for now, and they head back to the east side of the United States to Atlanta Motor Speedway. The Chucks are back in action this weekend as well. So we'll break all that down for you as well. We've got Fast Pasta Anthony Alfredo going to join us on the stripmasters.com hotline in the next segment. He's kind of on top of the world right now. I mean, he's got some good things going on.
Has.
The top 5 finish at Las Vegas, got the new e-racing league that he's a part of, and so he's got plenty of good things to talk about. So we'll talk to him about that. And all the latest news in NASCAR as well. Do want to start, though. This is coming off of Phoenix. This is the first short track race of 2020 with the kind of altered package that we created for this year. A lot of people said this was a really good race, and I just want to get your thoughts, Tom, on what you thought about the race and the new package for 2020 with the first short track race this year.
I agree with those people. I thought it was a really good race. The short track package with the lower downforce brought us back to the type of racing that we used to enjoy. It's more about the gas, the brake, and the steering wheel, and the driver behind the wheel. The tire was perfect, I thought. The fall off was great. You saw drivers coming from the back to the front, a lot of kind of comers and goers. I thought the racing was great all day. I mean, I believe that NASCAR hit a home run with this, and I honestly believe that they ought to take this same doggone package and just send it to the 1.5 miles and let them drive.
At least test it and see what happens. I mean, you got the All-Star race coming up in May. Put that package on there and see what happens.
Way too much spoiler, I think, on the cars now, and I think that was the biggest thing we saw was, knock that thing down and make this into a package with much less downforce so the cars aren't as stuck to the racetrack. And the drivers have to finesse them and drive them more. You sort of give them that freedom to move them around. I thought it was great.
I like one of the best things I think Phoenix has done is when they decided to pave all of the grass that's in the under the white line or whatever, so that when you go into the turn now you can go almost all the way to the wall if you wanted to. And just seeing them cut that corner short is such a cool sight. I know it kind of freaks me out sometimes because I'm like, they go like 6 wide because they have so much room to maneuver, and they go dive bombing that corner. And I think eventually somebody's going to dive bomb and come back up, and there's not going to be real estate when they get to the other side.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to watch because obviously at the super speedways, that you can't sneeze below the yellow line or they give you a penalty.
Right.
And yet at some of these other tracks like Phoenix, you can go all the way down the inside hub rail. Nobody cares.
Exactly.
It's an interesting way to race, but it does make for some really hair-raising moves. And, it certainly played into Sunday's event, especially on the restarts. Everybody fanned out. And, seeing Joey Logano get his second win, I can't help but think that, you look at the way all 3 of the Penske cars are running right now. I mean, Blaney should have had at least a couple, if not 3 wins. Now you got Joey with 2, and Brad hasn't had the results to show for it, but he's certainly been very competitive. The crew chief swap inside of Penske, where they moved everybody around, I think has paid dividends for all of these cars. It's given a new sort of spark, and wouldn't surprise me at all to see each of them get multiple wins before the season is over.
Sometimes you have to shuffle the deck to kind of get a better feel of how things work. But talking about Joey Logano, obviously he's the first driver to win 2 races this year and just the 4th race of the year. So we're going back to Phoenix for the championship in November. What we saw on Sunday, do you think that's kind of what we're going to see for the championship? I mean, are those guys going to be the ones that are going to be competing for the championship in November?
I mean, we got to get there first, right?
Right.
But that did add another dimension. The fact that for the first time in playoff history, we're going to end the season and crown the champion at a track where we've already raced at once. Mm-hmm. I think that definitely added a bit to yesterday's race, and I'm not sure what we're going to see when we go back, because obviously they'll have more time with a short track package, more time to dial the cars in. But I think that if we could see a race anywhere near as good and you put a championship on the line, who knows what's going to happen? I have the feeling this may end up being a rock'em sock'em shootout come November if we can just keep the racing the way it was on Sunday and you add a championship to the line. Nobody's going to leave anything on the table. This is going to be fun.
I mean, the whole thing started on Friday with qualifying because Kevin Harvick was on the pole for a good majority of qualifying, and then Chase Elliott came through and took him out of pole contention and ended up winning the pole. But Chase was fast, Harvick was fast, Logano was up front. Truex came to the field like 3 or 4 times during the course of the race before he ultimately, got into an incident late in the race. But I think those 4 guys, and then of course, the same guys that we see, week in and week out with Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin, those guys are going to be good. Danny's just had a horrible start to the season altogether. He just couldn't stay out of trouble.
He has, but he's caused a little of that.
It's true.
He's just he's not come out of the box the way he would like to. Larson is going to be in there. I mean, the Hendrick cars didn't really finish the way that they would have hoped to, but they're going to be fast.
They're definitely stronger than they were last year.
Yeah, for sure. And it wasn't that they were bad, but they were just kind of outside. Byron was 10th and Johnson 12th and Bowman 14th, and then you had Elliott up there in 7th. But, they as a whole, I would have expected better on that track from them, and they didn't quite have it to contend for the win. But right now it looks to me like the season is kind of started with even Steven. I mean, the Fords are strong, the Toyotas are strong, and we saw the Hendrick cars last week. I mean, we know the Chevys are capable, and, good to see Kyle Larson up there, too. I think he would have been up there last week if he hadn't gotten Denny Hamlin. So, again, it seems like we've got a pretty even spread across so far. We'll see what Atlanta brings, because we all know that, that pavement is older than dirt. So, that's always a track where you wonder what's going to happen. It'll be interesting to see if that is a good race this coming weekend or not.
Yep, for sure. And like we said, all 3 series are back in action this weekend at Atlanta. We are going to go off to a break. We'll talk more about the NASCAR Cup Series when we come back from break. But when we come back this time, Anthony Alfredo will be on our StrutMasters.com hotline, and we'll be back with more of the Inside Pass on WSIC right after this.
No. What about your flowers? Do you know who you're going to use?
I was just going to use the florist down the street.
Okay. Have you even booked your photographer yet?
No, Mom, you're making this so stressful. It's my wedding.
Need help planning your wedding, but not by your mother? Let us take the stress out of planning your wedding. Bring your bride tribe to Lake Norman Wedding Showcase, March 22nd from noon to 3 at the Charles Mack Center in Mooresville.
Message and data rates may apply.
Earning your degree from one of the top business schools in the country might sound impossible to fit into your workload. But what if there were a business degree that advanced your career skills and gave you access to world-renowned faculty, leaders, and mentors all on your schedule? One that opened doors to some of the most influential CEOs, tech companies, law firms, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. And what if you could earn that degree in as little as 16 months, 100% online? Find out more. Text DRIVE to 79645. Start on the path to earning your MBA or Business Analytics Master's degree online from the W.P. Carey School of Business at Arizona State University today. Learn more about the graduate programs from the top-ranked W.P. Carey School of Business at Arizona State University, offered 100% online. Text DRIVE to 79645. That's DRIVE to 79645.
This is News Talk 105.9 Lake Norman, 100.7 Greater Statesville, WSIC, where Cornelius turns first for breaking news and severe weather alerts.
Hello, race fans. This is Chris Wright. Thanks for listening to these guys. Man, what some great radio hosts. You're listening to the Inside Pass.
Welcome back to the Inside Pass on WSIC TV. Thank you so much for watching us on digital station 25.2. If you're in the Mooresville, Lake Norman area, or if you're listening to us on one of 3 WSIC family radio stations, 100.7 FM, 1400 AM, or 105.9 FM, Thank you for listening to us. Or if you're streaming us on the website, WSICFM.com, thank you for listening to us no matter where you are in the United States of America. We are back. Tom Baker, Randy Miller, and on the strutmasters.com hotline, one of our good friends of the show and driver of the number 21 RCR Chevrolet in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. They call him Fast Pasta. Anthony Alfredo is on the hotline. What's going on, my friend?
Hey, how's it going, guys? I appreciate your time today.
Hey,
we're excited to talk with you.
I want to tell you how cool that pit sign is that you have, that you created. That is the coolest looking pit sign I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh, yeah. We got T-shirts of it, too, on my website, AnthonyAlfredo.com, if you head to the store tab. But that's a fan favorite for sure. I've fully embraced the Fast Pasta name and live by that logo right there.
You should sell the pit signs. Like, I would totally buy a pit sign.
Hang it up in your garage.
Just to have, just to have. I would put it on my car and just run around town all day with the pit sign on. I totally would do that. No doubt about that. So you're coming off of a top 5 finish at Las Vegas. I can tell you right now that Tom and Jacob both thought I was completely crazy because I picked you to win your debut in the Xfinity Series, and they looked at me like a deer in headlights. And I said, no. He may not win, but I guarantee you he's at least going to get a top 5. I did pick you to win, though, but you got a top 5. So thank you for not getting me in trouble on last Thursday's show for doing that. But an awesome job. Congratulations on the top 5. I think this is the start of what's going to be an incredible year for you in the Xfinity Series.
Thank you. Yeah, it was definitely a great start in Auto Club in Fontana at Auto Club Speedway. That was a very challenging track. I think it fit my driving style, though, once I got comfortable in the Xfinity cars. Obviously, there's a lot of new challenges, a new track, a new car, never tested, never done anything. So it was kind of just being thrown to the wolves in a sense, but it went really well, better than I think everyone expected, including myself. And I always set high expectations for myself, and if I meet those expectations, I obviously make them even greater. But it was a great start. Everyone's pumped up. The team and I are excited. We've got great chemistry and some momentum that we can carry into our next race, which is next weekend at Homestead Miami Speedway. But it was just such a pleasure to have Anderson Steer Maple Syrup and Ralph's Grocery on the car for my debut. I appreciate their support. And our Chevy Camaro is almost as fast as NASCAR Xfinity Internet, but I wish it was, I think if we could have done that race over again, might have had a shot at the win just because of how much I learned by the end. It's easy to say, obviously. I wish we started the race where we ended, but that's just part of the learning curve. I think in one sense it was successful because it didn't take me multiple races to figure it out. By the last stage, I knew what I needed and knew what I needed to do behind the wheel to make some fast laps, get some track position, be aggressive on restarts, and ultimately put ourselves in contention for that top 5 finish.
That was as smooth of an Xfinity plug as I've ever heard, I think. And he's
only
one race into his career in the Xfinity Series, so he's got that down too. Okay, so you made obviously a spectacular debut, Anthony. I don't think anybody could have asked more from you than that to go and run top 5 like that. Now you go into Homestead, a track that you've never raced on, which, of course, Fontana was the same. But you go into Homestead now, another track that's new for you, but you go in with a little bit of confidence coming off the top 5. What happens now to the expectations for your performance and result at Homestead now that you've proven you can go out and run top 5 at Auto Club?
That's a great question. I think I set the bar high, especially for myself. And, I'm just excited to build on that. It's going to be difficult. It's a little bit of a tall order going to Homestead for the first time and knowing I got to put that thing 1 inch off the wall.
Yeah.
to down some fast laps and have put speed in the car, so to speak, by running that primary line around the racetrack, that high line. And, I think I could do it. I got the best people around me and the best equipment and just a lot of things to lean on. And Tyler Reddick is a teammate. Obviously, he's running the Cup Series now for RCR. So to lean on him from his experience there, he's won the last 2 races there and obviously the last 2 championships where that was the last race. So the car is where it needs to be. It's just a matter of me figuring it out. There's still a lot to learn. It's going to be a challenge. But I think Auto Club was a big confidence booster for myself and the team. So I'm really looking forward to building on that. Hopefully, getting even better finish than I did at Auto Club Speedway.
Coming out of the truck series, as you did into the Xfinity series, what was different for you in terms of from inside the car having to learn what's going on there? Because I know that the trucks and the cars feel differently and drive differently. What did you have to change from inside the car?
A lot. Definitely a lot of different things. The biggest thing is probably that the trucks have so much downforce and side force because of the way the bodies are. So aerodynamically, they handle a lot better on their own, where an Xfinity car is a lot edgier. It's honestly a little bit of a handful on its own. However, in traffic, I would say the balance shift around another car isn't as drastic as it is in a truck. The truck racing is exciting for a fan because there's 10 trucks that could win every week just because they're so equal with the motors and the bodies, but it's so hard to pass. You almost can't do anything. It's just because of the fact that everyone's the same speed and the clean air is so important. And although clean air is still important, it did to me feel a little bit like late model racing at 190 miles an hour, being able to slide around and to actually have to use the brake pedal on a mile and a half and lift completely out of the gas, not run, wide open or almost wide open. It was just way more fun and to kind of learn how you can drive the car. I think the biggest thing is if your car isn't handling exactly the way you'd like it to, you can kind of adjust the way you're driving it to make it a little bit better. Whereas I feel like in the truck series, you kind of got what you got and that's it. So it was definitely more fun. I think that's why the racing's so exciting too. And from a competition level, it's just extremely competitive. There's so many fast cars and drivers, and there's veterans, there's rookies, there's all of which are capable of winning. So it's a lot of fun to learn from the people I'm racing against, and the biggest thing is just kind of going at my pace and seeing where guys were around me and figuring out how I need to adjust my driving style. I mean, I didn't run full time in the truck series last year. I only ran 11 races, and that was part of the reason why some people believed I wasn't ready to take this step. However, I think it's actually been a benefit for me because I didn't build as much of those bad habits many of the other guys do who run in the truck series for, a full season, if not more than that, maybe 2 years.
That is a very interesting point. I never thought about that.
That's a good point.
So obviously it's no secret that everybody knows that you're really big in iRacing. So an oh duh moment would be you starting your own iRacing league. Duh. So talk a little bit about the new iRacing league that you started and how that is going so far.
It's going awesome. So the Esports Racing League is esports league in general that I founded just about a little over a month ago. Something I've been working on and developing for over the past year, but finally established it, announced it, and I'm just so proud to be providing a virtual proving ground for all these sim racers. I have so much fun with it. It added a lot of value to my career and just training, so to speak, for each race, just because you're not able to test so much. So anytime I'm not in the GM simulator or anything like that, I can be in the seat of the comfort of my own home in my SimSeat driving simulator practicing, and that's why I wanted to get involved. And gaming in general has always been something I'm passionate about. So to get involved and have my own esports league and a racing league on iRacing has been really cool, and to have their support for it as well has been really awesome. Especially all the guys competing. I mean, in the Premier Series that races on Wednesday nights, and they're actually broadcasted live thanks to the crew at Podium Esports. So you can watch those on the ERL_racing Twitch channel. Those drivers are actually, the majority of them are from the Coca-Cola iRacing series. So there's Zach Novak, last year's world champion, Jimmy Mullis, Malik Ray. Big names are running in the league, and it's really rewarding because I honestly didn't expect that when I first started it. So to have that in our first season is really exciting, and I'm just pumped to grow.
We had Casey Kerwin, who runs for Denny Hamlin in the Coca-Cola series, on our Lead Lap show last night, and Casey was talking a lot about the similarity between the sim and the seat and how the cars react and what you have to do to them. And it was interesting. I asked him about what kind of equipment he had, and he said, I'm kind of part of the group that likes to talk about how we race our desks, because you have the 3 screens on your desk and the steering wheel, sitting there clipped to it, and then your pedals underneath. You've actually got a really, really fancy rig from SimSeats. Talk a little bit about how, when you have one of those rigs, how it changes your comfort level and your ability to perform well on the sim, because I know it makes a difference.
Absolutely. It helps tremendously. I think the biggest thing is I was one of those people too, playing at a desk, and then I had this really kind of chintzy seat I built, so to speak, that, I kind of sat more like I was in a race car, but it was just really cheap and something I put together.
Yeah.
And now I have this SimSeats driving simulator, which is a full racing cockpit, basically. And I think the biggest thing is there's multiple other companies that are building simulator cockpits, right? But the biggest thing with SimSeats is it's built by racers for racers. And what I've done with them specifically over the course of the last year or so is almost some personal R&D work. And, they do stuff with road racers, with off-road guys, and NASCAR drivers like myself. So what that's allowed us to do is kind of improve certain things and some of the ergonomics. And where it's at right now is amazing. I'd say it's definitely the best on the market. And I would say that whether I was partnered with them or not, that's just my honest opinion. That was actually kind of how it started, was I just reached out to them because I was supporting their product before, anything ever even came of it. I'm just a big advocate of it. And kind of like you mentioned before, it just helps you make the most out of what iRacing has to offer.
Right.
And what I mean by that is iRacing is such a great tool, but you almost can't use its full capabilities without, a full setup, so to speak. So it just made me better on iRacing, but also make more out of it and get better as far as training goes. So to have that cockpit's been a huge help, and I'm just more immersed. The ergonomics, everything is exactly how I sit in the real-life race car. So it's not like, obviously when you sit at a desk, that's way different than when you're strapped into a race car. But for me, it's relatively close. So when I get into the car, I don't feel like anything's that different.
Yeah,
that's
what I was trying to get him to explain. Is it's kind of a much closer experience to being in the real seat than it is just sitting.
I've seen some pretty elaborate setups
too.
All right, Anthony, we are going to let you go. We want to obviously wish you the best of luck at Homestead Miami, and then with the iRacing League and everything going on in your world in the last few months, and come back on the show anytime you want, and come and sit in on a show and join us.
Sounds great. I appreciate it. I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. Thanks, everyone, tuning in.
No problem at all.
Good
Anthony,
luck, bud.
Fast Pasta Anthony Alfredo. We are going to take a break. We'll be back with more at the Inside Pass right after this.
This is News Talk 105.9 Lake Norman, 100.7 Greater Statesville, WSIC, where Terrell turns first for breaking news and severe weather alerts.
Covering Huntersville and the region, WSIC News is next. You've tuned in to hear local news, and so have a lot of other people. Your business could be advertising right here. Find out how affordable it can be. Call 704-872-6345, 704-872-6345.
Hey, radio family, it's Margaret Beveridge from the WSIC News Desk. High Point Market and Pre-Market will go on scheduled as planned despite coronavirus concerns. The High Point Market is the largest furnishings industry trade show in the world. The 2020 ACC tournament tips off today and runs through Saturday, March 14th. It's the 27th time the tournament has been held in Greensboro. North Carolina teams dominate the ACC with the most conference titles. Duke has the most ACC titles at 21, followed by North Carolina with 18. NC State has 10 ACC titles and Wake Forest has 4. Spectators will be kept away from the Olympic flame lighting ceremony in ancient Olympia on Thursday because of the coronavirus. The Greek Olympic Committee says only 100 accredited guests will be allowed to attend the traditional event. A dress rehearsal on Wednesday for the 2020 Tokyo Olympic flame will also be closed to the public to comply with Greek government restrictions to prevent the spread of the virus. I'm Margaret Beveridge with WSIC News.
Hey, I'm looking for some lumber.
Well, what kind do you need?
Well,
we've got TNG, shiplap, rough sawn, dressed, edge and center bead, C and better, hardwood, composite, and LVL.
Gosh, I didn't realize there was so much to choose from.
Well, at Lil Shavers, we know wood. No need to visit the big box stores. Lil Shavers Wood Shop is located just 7 miles east off I-77 in Statesville.
Mayhem is everywhere.
I'm that guy with all the bumper stickers.
I'd rather be driving a golf ball, but I'm going to buy American-made products with my 5th grade honor student. And if you can read these stickers, you're driving too close. So when I brake for a dog, happens. So coexist with Allstate, where agents help keep you protected from mayhem. Like me.
Call me, Allstate agent Kyle Houston today, 980-434-7000.
Hey, this is Jessica Babington from Trump International Realty here in Mooresville. Come see us for all your Lake Norman real estate needs. Check us out online at TrumpInternationalRealty.com. Again, that's TrumpInternationalRealty.com.
Morningstar Baptist Church loves its family, its community, and its country, but most importantly, loves Jesus Christ. Hear their ministry Sunday mornings at 9:30 on WSIC.
This is Justin Lofton, and you're listening to the best guys on the radio, the Inside Pass.
Welcome back to the Inside Pass on WSIC. And speaking of Justin Lofton, he's our guest next week on the show. So
well, there you go.
There you go. He's bringing us back from a commercial break. If you missed Anthony Alfredo or any of the beginning part of our show, you can catch it on demand later in the week on SoundCloud and Spotify and any of the other places where you can find your favorite podcast. Just search for the Inside Pass or Race Chaser Radio.
Yes.
And you will find it there. You can also find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, any of those places as well. Just search for one of the two on your favorite social media channel, and you will find us there as well. Welcome back to the show. We are going to talk about the Xfinity Series race now, and you know, last year we talked about how Brandon Jones just couldn't seem to catch a break. Always, you know, was running up front and doing pretty good, and then something would happen to his car. He ended up winning a race after he was in the playoff, or before he got to the playoffs, but then didn't, you know, end up winning his race. It was a little too late for him to make it all the way up. This past week at Phoenix, he did something that I think a lot of people were wanting to have happen, where he pretty much just put a whooping on Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski. There were a lot of Cup guys in the field on Saturday, and he whipped them all.
Yeah, he did. And here's the thing. This was a statement win.
Oh, yeah.
By Brandon Jones. Sure. This was a big-time statement win. You know, you have Kyle Busch, who obviously when he drops down, he's the guy, right? And it's almost an automatic in the Truck Series. The Xfinity Series, I think what we're seeing, and I said this preseason that I thought this was going to be the case, and it's playing out so far. What we're seeing is there's probably a 10 to 12 guys. If you start, you know, looking at all the junior cars, all the Gibbs cars, all the, you know, the Penske car, the Stewart-Haas car, the Ryan Sieg is running really well. You've got probably 10 guys to 12 guys who can win on any given, you know, Saturday that the Xfinity Series runs. And here's Brandon Jones coming from behind and passing Kyle Busch to win the race. I think that this definitively makes the statement that Brandon Jones is going to be a contender this season. And Brandon I said this last night, Brandon's not a big guy. He's kind of a little guy, and he still looks, you know, 5 years younger than he is. Yeah. So I think people he sort of gets overlooked. But he's been getting better and better and better and better since he's gotten to Gibbs. He's had some of the worst luck in the history of the series over his career. And last year, they start getting on a run of races where they finish. He gets a win. This year, now he's already out of the box fast and winning. I think he's a contender, and it was fun to watch that. And not only does Brandon get by Kyle, but Harrison Burton goes by Kyle. Another statement, you know, a first and a second the last 2 weeks for Harrison. And, you know, again, after all that Kyle Busch said about him and Todd Gilliland in the trucks last year, you know, Harrison goes up a step and instantly has success. You know, I think this clearly suggests that these guys are going to be contenders through the season, and it was really it was a good time to watch that.
Yeah, it's always great to win a race, but when you win a race, when you beat guys like Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski and, you know, some of the Cup regulars, I think it means more. It would mean more to win a race like that.
I would say, but, you know, the truth is that I think the Xfinity Series is plenty competitive without those guys. I mean, Brad really wasn't a factor for you know, a lot of the race, and certainly wasn't at the end. And Kyle's car wasn't perfect by any means, but again, for those guys, despite having the Cup guys out there, for those guys to go out and do what they did says a lot. And, there were some other guys that were really competitive with them too, and just didn't get the result to show for it. But that was a good race. The Xfinity Series putting on good shows so far this year.
We've kept a streak alive too of having a different race winner every week so far.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a clear-cut, definitive, Last year we had the big three, and you could tell they were the big three because they were finishing first, second, and third almost every single race. This year, we've had this is the first week we haven't really had any huge surprises in the top 10. It's pretty standard, regulars mixed with Cup guys, but this is the first short track race of the year, so you get to, a few more races down the road, and I think you're going to start seeing where, these guys are you'll see where the cream is going to rise to the top.
Well, I think that's the other point to be made is that on a short track, it's easier for these guys to, the experience on the speedways and how to drive them is what separates the Bushes, the Keselowskis, the Logano's. When they do run these Xfinity races, that's what separates them is you get to these bigger tracks where aero and how to interpret the air and how to deal with all that, that's where those guys excel. On the shorter tracks, it's a little easier because it's more just, almost as Anthony put it, almost a late model style kind of race, so it's a little easier for the younger guys to keep up. But Brandon, shouldn't be interpreted as a younger guy. He's been around for several years in this series, and he's just now starting to peak, I think.
Just flying under the radar for so long, and now he's starting to get his opportunity. Speaking of Stewart-Haas Racing, Tony Stewart is going to be in the Xfinity Series race at the road course at IndyCar. Yep. He's racing his home track, his hometown, his home state. So, obviously, it's something good for him. My question, I guess, or I don't want to say fear. It's not a fear. My question is, how is he going to be able to translate? Because he's been out of the car for quite a while. So, he's been in sprint cars, but he hasn't really been in any Xfinity Series races or Cup Series races since he retired. So, it's a little bit different car now than they were when he was behind the wheel. And the youth sport, the youth movement in our sport has gotten so much better that I don't know how competitive Tony might be.
Oh, I don't see. Look, this is a road course. And,
right.
We watched Jeremy Clements win on a road course.
That is very true.
Okay, and so my point with that is that, road course skills are road course skills. Yeah. So when it comes to road course skills,
you don't forget how to drive.
Right. Yeah. Tony has driven tons of road courses over a long time, and he's won on, I don't think we have any worry of him being competitive. I actually think he'll be more apt to be competitive for a win coming back to Indy on that road course. Again, a neutral course that nobody's run on before.
That's true.
Then he would, because it was always the Aero and Tony never got along. Tony's an old school racer. He likes to drive cars off the right rear. That's his style of driving never meshed in Cup with the new Aero cars, and that's why his performance fell off toward the end. It wasn't that he forgot how to drive a Cup car, and he was very frustrated by that. I think he always said he wanted to run a road course race in the Xfinity Series again, and I think this is the perfect place for him to do it. It's a first time. It's going to be a big weekend with him there. Everybody loves him in Indy because obviously he used to race Indy, and that's where he's from. And so I think it's the perfect one race, come back, have a good time. If I win, great. If I don't, it's okay. I just want to have fun.
Right. I just want to go and compete one last time, on my home track.
I don't know if it'll be the last time.
Well, probably not. It's never the last time when you're a Cup guy.
It's not I'm running for a championship. He wants to win. He'll be focused on the win, but I think he understands that there's going to be a good time. He's going to enjoy it and have fun, because on the road courses, the driver's skill still matters more.
Right.
And I think that's why he wants to do that.
Yeah. He wouldn't get in the car if it wasn't competitive anyway.
Right.
So obviously, he's going to be competitive. The last couple of weeks, we've talked about how the Truck Series bounty that has been put in place by Kevin Harvick has gotten to a point where it's only Cup regulars that are allowed to compete for it. Well, now Chris Larson from Halmar International has posted a $50,000 bounty for any Truck Series regular who can beat Kyle Busch. So now everybody gets a little piece of the pie, or at least a chance to earn a piece of the pie, depending upon who you are and what you're looking, how much money you're looking to get.
Yeah, well, again, I love that. I love that Chris did that, because he's trying to help out a Truck Series regular.
Right.
Now, obviously, he's hoping his Truck Series regular
he wants to keep the money in the family, of course. But.
So he could write a check to himself, basically, or Stewart. But it's. I think this is a much better. I'm just not. I'm not overly excited about these Cup guys coming in. I think it'll be fun and it'll get hype. But I would rather see more opportunities for more of the younger guys trying to scratch their way to the top. So I love what Chris did here, and I wish we'd have had a Marcus Lemonis jump on that bounty and double that bounty instead of doubling the bounty for a multi-millionaire Cup driver to come down and win a race who's not going to be impacted by that money as much as a younger guy would who's trying to make it up the ladder.
Yeah, those guys are already hungry in the Truck Series, so adding $50,000 to the mix is going to make them a little bit more, itching to get that win and get that extra money for sure.
Sadly, he won't be. It's not a short track situation. I wish it was, because you go to a track like Bristol or Martinsville and put that bounty up for these guys, and Kyle will have a rough day.
Yeah, he definitely.
I know they don't get the bounty if they crash him, but that doesn't mean they can't rough him up.
Right. Well, most of those guys probably know how to wreck somebody and make it look like an accident anyway.
Exactly.
So I'm sure it wouldn't
Including
take very
Kyle.
much. So we are going to step off to a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about NASCAR, and we got the rest of the news from the NASCAR world. IndyCar is getting ready to get going, too. We'll talk about that, too. We'll be back with more right after this.
Read it tomorrow, see it tonight, or hear it now on News Talk 105.9 Lake Norman, 100.7 Greater Statesville, WSIC.
Our chickens can't stop singing.
Flap on over to JB's and get a chicken filet, fries, and a drink for only $5.99.
That's right. Chicken filet, fries, and drink for only $5.99.
At JB's Hot Dogs, 320 Moxville Highway in Statesville.
For WSIC, I'm Fox 46 meteorologist Nick Koser. A warm afternoon turning into a mild evening, a low temp of about 50. Tomorrow, another warm day, 69 for the high with a 20% chance for showers. Thursday, another 20% chance for showers with high temperatures holding steady at about 70 degrees. From the Neighborhood Storm Watch Forecast Center, I'm meteorologist Nick Koser. Be sure to catch Chief Meteorologist Tara Lane today on Fox 46 News at 5.
Hey radio family, it's Margaret Beveridge from the WSIC News Desk. The Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce recognized the Southwire Huntersville plant for outstanding supportive education at the Education Power Luncheon at Northstone Country Club. Southwire received the first Inspire Our Future Award at the event, which featured Mark Johnson, Superintendent of Public Instruction in North Carolina. 2 confirmed cases of the coronavirus have been diagnosed in North Carolina in the past week, but the risk for exposure to the virus in Iredell County is low, said Walter Meters, medical director at Piedmont Healthcare in Statesville. It may only be Tuesday, but the schedule is out for this weekend's NASCAR races in Atlanta. It's a quick turnaround from the teams being out west for the past few weekends. For details about the schedule, go to NASCAR.com. An oil price war inspired by the coronavirus epidemic could push gas prices below $2 a gallon in the coming weeks. I'm Margaret Beveridge with WSIC News.
Hey, have you seen the new cyber threat warning about the conversation?
Hijacking? Totally. Cyber criminals are using email account takeover and brand impersonation to insert themselves into email conversations and steal money from businesses.
Right. That's why I tell my clients about
Barracuda. Same here. They use artificial intelligence to detect and block sophisticated attacks, including account takeover and brand impersonation.
Man, I guess you did see it.
Don't become a victim. Protect your business at Barracuda.com. Barracuda, your journey secured.
Nothing changes your life more than God or love than moving your credit score 120 points. I'm John Hope Bryant, founder of Operation Hope. I want you to go to operationhope.org and take your life back. Get your dignity back. Join the Hope 700 Credit Score Community Program and take your life back. Go to operationhope.org today or call us at 404-941-2919 today.
I'm Chase Elliott, and you're listening to the Inside Pass.
There's Chase Elliott. Welcome back to the Inside Pass on WSIC. And by the way, you can call us and give us your thoughts on the weekend's races at Phoenix or anything else that you want to talk about racing related. It's 704-873-1400. feel free to call in and ask your questions, comments, suggestions, thoughts on the race weekend or IndyCar coming up this weekend as they're getting back going again. And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. We were talking about the Cup race before we went to break. Cole Custer ended up in the top 10, and actually all of the Stewart-Haas cars ended up in the top 10, all 4 cars. Yep. So good job by all of them. We like to make fun of Clint Boyer, but I think the coolest thing that Xfinity, or I guess Fox did, is put NASCAR guys in the booth for the Xfinity race, because him and Joey actually have a good chemistry together. Yeah. I like watching them too on TV.
It's a change. You get to hear different voices and different thoughts and interpretations on what's going on. And some of those guys, you get the feeling, are obviously auditioning for their future career. Mm-hmm. And for others, it's just a good time. And you get, any of these guys, Chase Elliott, Eric Jones has been really good. These guys are very entertaining. And I think Clint Boyer has a great sense of humor. Joey Logano is kind of the aw shucks sort of approach, but he's also not afraid. We see it in his driving. He's not afraid to take risks and whatever. And, it's just fun to watch the two of them, the chemistry between the two of them when they're in the booth together. It's cool to have the drivers up there.
It's good to see that, at least some NASCAR drivers can get along at least for 2 hours at a time.
Most of them get along, period. A lot of people don't realize how much of that is theater sometimes,
of course. And ratings and,
yeah, exactly.
Let's make it worse than it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course. Yep. So Ryan Blaney signed a contract last week to extend his services over at Penske, which means that's one mark off of the 48 car. That somebody who won't be in the car, which I think a lot of people thought, because of his friendship with Chase Elliott, he would have an easy in, but I mean, obviously Chase doesn't have that much influence on the car quite yet, but it's good to see Ryan, kind of taking the initiative. You know what? Let's get this out of the way, get it done and over with. Now, I guess everything turns to Brad Keselowski now, because he made kind of some interesting comments on Friday when asked about what his plans were. People, I guess there was a rumor going around that he could possibly retire because he's got 2 kids now with Paige, and he's like, no, I don't want to retire. And like, well, what about re-signing with Penske? And he's like, well, we haven't really talked about contracts yet. He's like, but whatever. And then somebody else asked him about another ride, and he goes, well, I'm not going to call anybody, but if somebody calls me, I'll talk to him about it. And it kind of stirred up some feathers and ruffled some people.
It was interesting. I mean, there's been this faction of the fan base that just has believed that Brad's going to be in the 48. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, he's going to be in the 48. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. You have that faction, and then the thing to watch is the other faction that is just determined that Kyle Larson is going to be in the 48. Yeah. Kyle's going to be in the 48. Kyle's going to tell you, why not Kyle? Well, because Hendrick won't let him run all his dirt races. Well, he's going to make an exception. Kyle's going to be, it's like, people, come on. Yeah. I don't think, personally, that Rick's going to, I think he's going to trend younger. If he can get a driver from the Chevrolet family who's an up-and-comer, who's got, can rise and be, I think he goes that way. Brad would be the exception, in my opinion, because remember, Brad was supposed to come over to Hendrick before he went to Penske. Mm-hmm. So if Rick thinks he needs a veteran presence for whatever reason, then you look at Brad. I don't believe Kyle Larson to the 48. I think it's either somebody in the Chevy family of drivers already, or it's Brad Keselowski. But I just don't buy the Brad Keselowski theory. I think Rick's going to bring one of the Chevy guys up, whether that's Chastain, whether that's a Noah Gragson, if Noah can finish strong and do well. I think Hemrick was in the mix, but Daniel hasn't had a great start to his year. I think he just needs to relax and just let himself go run races and go get some top 5 runs, and then he'll be fine. But I certainly think a Chastain is a possibility. I think a Justin Haley is actually a possibility. I think that that Noah Gragson certainly is a possibility. But you've got some drivers out there that are, even John Hunter Nemechek I could see being a possibility. Rick has a certain personality he likes. And he doesn't like controversy. He likes them to be kind of clean cut, and so you've got to look at that type of issue when you decide who you think's going to be in this car. And I think that Gregson would be the choice that Rick would like to make, but I think Noah's got to show that he can run and be consistent and run for wins and contend without the sort of the mistakes of, the bad judgment like he showed a couple weeks ago. I think where we're at, Vegas. And so this is going to be an interesting scenario. I don't think Brad goes anywhere personally. I think Penske resigns him and he stays right there.
Yeah, I think you're right too. And the criteria that you mentioned about somebody that Hendrick is looking for made me change my pick, because originally I picked Zane Smith, and I don't know what I was doing, but not anything better against Zane. But Zane needs a few more years of experience.
Yeah,
so I changed my pick to Ross because I believe, because for me I feel like you obviously want to take somebody in there that's hot, like that's doing good, and getting the mainstream media attention, and Ross has been doing that for the last couple of years. He's also a Chevy driver, so even though he's
at least for now,
he's kind of on the fence right now. But I mean, he's filling in for Ryan Newman, but Ryan, knock on wood, will be back in the next few weeks. So Ross will be back as a Chevy driver exclusively with Colleague, and I think that's the kind of guy that, just like you mentioned, that's the kind of guy that Hendrick wants as a clean-cut driver. He's very aggressive, but he's not aggressive to the point of pushing himself over the limit. He knows when to stop, being aggressive or whatever on the racetrack. But he's like everybody's kind of darling child. I mean, everybody loves Ross Chastain because of the image that he's created and the things that he's done, in the last year and a half. And I think that's exactly the kind of person that would fit well.
The only thing I see with Ross is Ross has a tendency to drive through people too much.
That's true.
He gets
so
a little
does Denny
too
Hamlin,
big for
but
his britches. Well, but then he's not with Hendrick.
That's true.
It's like I said, it's going to be really interesting. Now, if Brad ever does go to the 48, can you imagine how that changes silly season? Because there isn't an automatic lock for the 2-car.
It's true.
Austin Cindric's still down in the Xfinity Series. Do they take Matt DiBenedetto and move him to the home team and put Cindric into the 21, or do they go off the page and go get somebody else to drive the deuce altogether? I mean, there's still a lot riding on this, and we're still in March and we're talking about silly season.
It's the fourth race of the year. Yeah. We're already talking about moving people around. Speaking of Jimmy Johnson, though, he is going to test for Aaron McLaren on April the 6th at Barber. It's no secret that he wants to, once his Cup career comes to an end, in Phoenix in November, he wants to do other forms of racing. One of the biggest things he wants to do is run an IndyCar race. So I think this is a great opportunity for him to get behind the seat and kind of get a feel for what's going on there, so that maybe Indy 500 next year, Jimmy Johnson will be in the field.
I don't think it's the Indy 500. He does not want to run ovals.
That's true.
Jimmy
he wants to
run
run
road courses.
Yeah,
that's why he's testing at Barber. And the fact that Arrow's reserved, the McLaren's reserved the number 48. They got the number from Dreyer Reinbold Racing. Yeah. It basically tells you that Jimmy Johnson's going to run an IndyCar race next year, wherever it may be, or maybe he's going to run a few. But I don't see him running Indy, and I don't see him running ovals, because he has maintained all the way through this process, I'm not interested in that. I want to run. No. It's the whole technique of driving an IndyCar on a road course that intrigues him to begin with, and that's why he wants to do it. So I don't think it's ovals. I think it's a few road courses for him.
For sure. The first news of 2021 came out schedule-wise last week. In case you missed it, NASCAR has started throwing darts at the dartboard again. Because Speed Weeks has been shrunk into 1 week as opposed to being 2 weeks like it was this year, where you had basically the ARCA race qualifying, and then the next week, or later that week, it was the duels, and then so it's all going to be down into 1 week. The Daytona Clash is going to be run on the road course for the first time ever, which is the same course that the Rolex 24 uses when they run. Also under the lights, which adds another dimension into the mix, and it's going to be on a Tuesday night, which is really super cool.
Prime time.
Daytona 500 qualifying moves to Wednesday with the duels on Thursday. Trucks run Friday. ARCA Xfinity Saturday, and Cup on Sunday. I think that's probably a good move in terms of travel, and you get everybody down there at once. You do it all. You leave, get out of there. It's 1 week and done and over with. So
this is a great move.
Yes.
I think it's a great move. Again, every time NASCAR changes something, fans complain. So I kind of just throw that out, because most of them, really NASCAR fans.
Right.
They just
they're controversial
they're more
fans.
introvert. Yeah, they're more interested in complaining than they are. But the fact is that, number one, moving the Busch Clash to the road course is a science experiment. I guarantee you they're testing to see how that works, how it goes over. Now, the only negative to me is there's less cars on the track, so there might be more spread out.
I think the best thing about that part, though, is the fact that you don't have drivers now who are going to get an idea of what it's like to run on the big track before the 500 in qualifying. Like you're taking that element of, I get a head start on the rest of the competition now because you're not running that course right now. You're running the road course.
You hopefully avoid the crash fest that we saw this year.
Correct.
It should be a much cleaner, much more intriguing race.
Yeah.
But I love the Tuesday night because it's more prime time, and I hope they move qualifying to nighttime on Wednesday as well. They probably won't, but I hope they do because, again, more primetime NASCAR coverage. It makes Daytona week feel even more special to me to have it condensed like that. And the ARCA race then goes to Saturday. It's a nice week of racing, and I think it's a good move, and I think the fans, once they experience it, I think they're really going to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a whole, like the Super Bowl is like a week-long festivity of things. So let's make our NASCAR Super Bowl the same way. Let's make it a whole week's worth of festivities.
The festival style is what's the future of this sport, I promise you. And, I think this is a little preview of what we're going to see more of down the road. I think it's great.
Yep, everybody down there. All right, so IndyCar gets their season kicked off this weekend at St. Petersburg, Florida. Brand new season, a couple of new rookies in the field, some driver changes, things going on. What are you looking forward to this season?
Well, I mean, the season as a whole, I think, is going to be nip-tuck all the way through. I think you've got a lot of balance between the teams now. As far as this race, I think you always look at Team Penske because they're traditionally the strongest, along with Alex Rossi. So it should be a great race this weekend. St. Pete's not one of the more side-by-side competition type courses. It's a street course. Passing's at a premium. So, starting position is going to be key here, and you don't want to make mistakes in the pits that cost you time. But I would expect one of the Penske guys to win. But I think this year in IndyCar is going to be, with Roger Penske at the helm now, I think you're going to see progressively more interesting things throughout the year as more of his fingerprint gets put on the series and especially on the track.
Yeah, his ideas and stuff like that. 3 new rookies in the field. Oliver Askew, who was the Indy Lights champion last year.
Big talent.
For Arrow McLaren, Ben Hanley will drive for Dragon Speed, and Dalton Keller will be for AJ Foyt. So I think Dalton's only a part-time ride, though.
Yeah,
right?
it is. He is. And but Oliver Askew is a driver to watch. He's got big talent.
Yeah, he did some big things in the Indy Lights series last year, so he's definitely going to be one guy that you want to watch. And then, of course, all of the regulars are going to be coming back. So I'm like you, though. I think this is, you won't see the changes right off the bat. I mean, obviously, with Penske, you'll see minor changes, but I think 2021 comes along and you'll see not really a complete overhaul like NASCAR, but I think you'll see some major changes with Penske's footprint.
IndyCar,
IndyCar,
NASCAR, unless he buys NASCAR this year, which is not out of the question, because he's buying everything else.
I would be opposed to it, but whatever. Anyway, we want to thank Anthony Alfredo for joining us. You can check him out on social media. He's all over social media. You can't miss him. If you just search for Fast Pasta, I'm sure you'll find him somewhere. Next week on the show, we've got Justin Lofton. They just had the Mint 400. I don't know if he won. I haven't. He hasn't texted me back yet, but we'll
find out.
We'll find out. And NASCAR Atlanta week, we'll talk all about that as well. So for Tom Baker, I'm Randy Miller. See you next week. We'll see you Thursday on Madness next week on the Inside Pass. Have a great week, everyone.
You're listening to News Talk 100.7 FM, W264CU Statesville, 105.9 W290 DK Mooresville, and 1400 AM WSIC Statesville.